a seat, we will get the next panel underway. So my name is Maury Ruffin. For those of you I haven't met yet, but I think I've had a chance to meet most of you over the course of the last couple of days. I think we've had a great program so far today, and we've covered a lot of ground and a lot of key areas, certainly important topics to the field of regenerative medicine. And I think the session we had just prior to this is a very good lead into the discussion that we're going to have next, which is on how we build successful and scalable business models in this industry. And we're going to do things a little bit differently here for this session. We do not have any slides, so this is going to be dialogue and questions, and we hope to get the audience involved as well. And we want to really challenge ourselves and open things up a little bit. We heard in the last session about many of the financial challenges I think most of us are pretty familiar with in this sector. And frankly, I don't think they're unique to regenerative medicine and the life sciences. I think that a lot of biotech companies in other parts of the industry out there who are facing many of the same things, and certainly Lisa did mention that. But I think this sector is actually in a very unique place. And I think one of the things we want to explore today with this panel is, what makes this sector different, and are there things that we can think about here in terms of the model, the business model, the types of companies we have involved here, how we scale this business, how we monetize it, that might allow us to think about the whole question of valuation and ultimately what the end point is a little bit differently. And so I think that's really going to be kind of the subtext to the conversation we're going to have for the next hour. What I'd like to do to begin is ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves. I'm going to start on my right. And they're each going to give a brief introduction on their company. And I think one of the things you'll see here as we go through this, that unlike other sectors, each one of the individuals here represents a very different business in this space with a different model. So I think we're going to get a lot of variety in terms of the perspective, and I think that will help us as we try and deconstruct a little bit and think about what is unique about this space. So we'll start with Bob Preddy, who's to my right in the far chair. And Bob, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about Progenitor and Neostem, and how you all are thinking about commercialization.
Okay, thank you, Maury. Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Bob Preddy. I'm President and Chief Science Officer of Progenitor Cell Therapy, which we started about 12 years ago now as a private company. We remained private as a contract development and manufacturing organization for many years, and on January 19th of this year, were acquired by Neostem Corporation, which gave us a very different look at the world. And so for the last almost a year now, we've been doing the integration exercises and pretty much not changing the way we, from the service side, look at the world, but it helps us in the way we approach some of our clients and the way we can approach some clients. So I'll start a little bit about the company and why it formed the way it did. So my background is I come out of a hematology cell biology background, and moved into some product development exercises early on, which almost serendipitously resulted in the ATIS story of Dermagraft production, now EBH in Shire. And it was one thing leading to another, and a lot of people know the story. It's not so important, but the background is that it was cell therapy sort of development before we called it cell therapy. And it was really more about some interesting business ideas on how to take this new world of using cells to treat people. It was a fascinating time with some very, very clever and very unique people who were involved who saw the future. I went from that exercise into a not-for-profit exercise working with the New York Blood Center, where we were putting together a processing laboratory to help people get into the bone marrow transplant space. So this idea of providing centralized processing services became of interest, in one of my clients at the time, a fellow by the name of Andrew Pecora, was driving the growth of a bone marrow transplant center at Hackensack Medical Center, and he required these types of services. So he came out of more of a clinical side, had some research background at Memorial Sloan Kettering. So the combination of the two of us is, this is kind of interesting. Why don't we take this and bring it to the larger world of now cell therapy? That's what it was starting to be called at the time when we started this company. We quickly realized after a couple of really interesting experiences what were some of the challenges that people would encounter as they were in this very interesting field. And the challenges are multifaceted, which I think will set the stage, and you've heard of all this, and calls to Newcastle for this group really, but you'll certainly hear it from this panel. So we started to put together a team of people and facilities, et cetera, that had multifaceted approach. So from business to big pharma, to biotechnology companies, to from the healthcare sector, the clinical side. So we could look at product development from the back toward the front. So we knew what it was like to write prescriptions, we knew what it was like to actually treat patients, we knew what doctors would write prescriptions for. As I like to say, you know, at the end of the day, it's writing a prescription that is the water that pulls the it's the sunlight that pulls the water up through the tree and it gets everything to happen. If you don't do that, these are nice science experiments, but they never do become therapeutics. Putting together that group was really made to say to our client base, you know, what is contract manufacturing and development play all about? It's about allowing focus. We focus on what we focus on, the developer focuses on what they focus on, and it's about focusing on what you're good at. It's risk mitigation, of course, because you're not building your own and setting up everything on your own. You can mix and match and play, and in this industry there's no shortage of service providers to help with a variety of different things. And it's leverage, and so helping to leverage capacity, etc. Very expensive. Our biggest challenge, of course, is asset utilization. Put stuff through the facilities. It works if we can keep it busy. And if it doesn't, it becomes very difficult. So and that's a challenge for anybody who builds infrastructure. And that's not just physical infrastructure, that's just the start of it. But we also realized quickly that it wasn't just us, that we had to go out and get partners, because while we had some what we consider to be very sophisticated expertise, we also needed partners. So we went out and partnered in very informal and formal ways with what we like to call complementary solution providers that we could bring to bear to assist our customers with their development and contract manufacturing needs. So that's where we are today. That is the business model, and I look forward to the rest of the conference.